Welcome to the final ever episode of VS World 2025 Recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Harvestone, and joining me as always is the Canadian who loves to claim that massage is part of his culture, Logan Saunders.
Good afternoon.
And the guy who would never be too intimidated to flirt with a stranger who's just sent him a waist-up selfie, David Bindley.
Good morning, whores.
Good morning. I mean, the show's cancelled. This is the last ever episode of VS World 2025. There is no remaining 4 episodes of this season.
No. What a shame.
Who knew the final episode would feature the people from Trust Nobody?
I know. I did know that they were in this episode because they tweeted out a picture of it while the episode was airing, and I'm like, I wonder what's happening there. But yeah, I wouldn't have guessed the context if I hadn't watched this episode.
Yeah. Your move to Costa.
Yeah, we're incredibly available. You should know this by now, Gilles. On the subject of Gilles, we're probably only a couple of weeks away from finding out the premiere date of Belgium, so this is your preemptive reminder, Saunders, to remind him about giving us mole paraphernalia like exemptions.
Yes.
Because he did say to remind him.
Or Lloyd's Bong?
I would prefer yokers or exemptions or literally any merch that we can get, to be honest, that no one else has got.
Yeah. I don't think you can get Lloyd's Bong through customs.
It would be a very interesting challenge to try and get that through whichever airport I decide to fly from this year.
Yeah. Level 1, shoplift a Greek grocery store. Level 2, smuggle drug paraphernalia through security.
Level 3, do both of those things whilst dressed as Little Red Riding Hood like Lloyd was.
And level 4, you have to keep your heart rate under a certain number of heartbeats per minute. Also, we had, did anyone else notice that during the trivia challenge that they quizzed them on about 14 different seasons and none of them were about the Canadian season?
They didn't. That's the thing. I mean, we will get into this in the episode, but I am reasonably confident that those seasons are going to lead to a clue of some description. There were some very suspicious seasons that they chose, put it that way.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. Like, I understood why they sort of aimed for like more recent seasons, it felt like, because we got questions about Albania and Renaissance and Czechia and China. But we missed the last 2 seasons, the seasons nobody likes. We missed both of Carol's seasons. We only got 1 question from the Peter Yarn era, which sadly Sam did not have to answer. We only got like 2 questions from Angela's era, and one of the questions was, who is Angela? It felt to me sort of very targeted towards Art and Rick seasons.
Yeah. I mean, they are the vast majority at this point.
Yeah.
In their slight defense, but it felt like there is something to the seasons that they chose, and it does make me think back to a clue in Sri Lanka, which is the only clue I've ever solved, which required you to translate the numbers that you saw in the challenge to the letters of the alphabet to work out a clue about them all. I have translated the letters from the season numbers that they picked in order, and it doesn't spell anything out necessarily, but it could still be an anagram.
Imagine if they did this for Survivor or Amazing Race or Big Brother. This is from the Jeff Probst era. This is from the Jeff Probst era. This is from the Julie Chen Moonves era. This is from the Phil Kogan era.
There's going to be some sort of self-referential dick-sucky challenge in Survivor 50, isn't there? It's going to be Survivor Trivial off Pringles or something again.
It's been a while since they've done a quiz challenge on Survivor, actually.
Micronesia, yeah.
Yeah, Micronesia did one.
They had a Exile Island or whatever challenge that was put all the seasons in order or something, didn't they, recently? All the season logos.
Oh, right. In the new era, they did have that, the logos.
And the funny thing is they couldn't even use the new era logos because they've changed to season numbers.
Yeah, there was something probably within about the last year where they've referenced all the previous logos. I can't even remember which season it was. I don't even care about New Era Survivor, to be honest.
Been a long time before that, though.
Yeah.
Micronesia was the last. Well, I think Micronesia was the last trivia challenge.
And I think the last sort of Q&A challenge before that was Cambodia, the Storytime challenge at night.
I also love how we're doing literally everything we can to not talk about this episode because it acknowledges that Sam is not the winner of this season.
Well, we are talking about Cambodia right now.
Yeah, good point. And Angkor, to be fair.
If you want, we can always talk about the other Venom season.
Canada?
Well, that does lead me on nicely to the fact that the big Venom news this week is the fact that A, there's a Renaissance 2, and B, seemingly filmed last month.
Really?
Yes. So at the end of this year, or presumably about the Renaissance slot, so sometime in sort of September, October time, there is Renaissance 2, or Renaissance, as I'm calling it now, which is set in Portugal.
Is George going to be involved?
Well, yeah. I mean, Bindles has already predicted that that's going to happen.
Yeah, he's too popular for them not to find an excuse to stick him in there.
Yeah. It is interesting timing this announcement, though, because Renaissance, I think, was a pretty open secret during China, but they didn't
Yeah.
acknowledge Renaissance until right at the end of the reunion. Because I was sat in the cinema in just outside of Amsterdam, and I was like, "Did I mistranslate that? Did Rick say there's gonna have another season this year?" They announced this halfway through the season, presumably right after it filmed or very close to when it filmed. And I'm wondering if they did it because they knew people were going to be pissed off that Sam's going and he's on the next season. And I know that it has maybe been debunked that he was in the country 2 weeks ago or whatever, but Renaissance wasn't a very long season filming wise.
No, that was like 12, 13 days, something like that.
It was like 12, 13 days because it was only 8 episodes. It's not out of the question for Sam to be this season's representative on Renaissance.
Yeah. Renaissance.
And if he is, I mean, I'm immediately in favour of this season.
Yeah. I mean, really, the only downside for us is we were planning to do 2 historians this season, and now we've got to, work out which one we're doing, which one we're not doing.
2 seasons this year, you mean?
Yeah.
You said 2 seasons this season.
I'm awake.
We were planning on doing 2 historian seasons this season, yes. And now we're not.
Yeah. So I think we know which one we're doing and which one we're not doing, but the fun bit is there's been clues already to both of them. And now half of those clues don't make sense.
And we have been deliberately not telling you that there have been historians' clues, mainly because we've not started recording it yet.
Yeah.
So what I would say for Renaissance is that I don't think it's out of the question for Sam to be the representative of that season. And I hope it isn't. Because if we get fucking Ray come back, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, Gabriel.
He's the guy who melted ice. Did you want Sam or the ice melter?
Well, it's a season that's been filmed in the middle of winter, so hopefully not the ice melter.
So the 2 bits of housekeeping. Well, they both relate to Fuzzy anyway, but number 1, she got the banner right last week. She did not, however, get the bingo board right.
You.
Have you set the new ground rules with her on the banner as well?
No, I haven't. We're going to surprise her.
Oh, good. To fill you in, Saunders, last week, because she got the banner, she put it as a dead centre square. We're going to implement the new rule that she has to declare which square the banner's going to go in before we confirm whether the banner is correct or not, because we're not letting her cheat in that way again.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's getting too many W's.
No, this is the first banner she's got in about a year, but I saw that loophole last week. I let it go last week, but it's not happening again.
Yeah, and she's not allowed to ask the Trust Nobody people for hints either.
No.
Just press the button. Trust Nobody people. Tell me what RTV Warriors is going to do for their banner.
And then all of a sudden, one of the squares is Logan's top suspect.
And the other thing is that Fuzzy has completely solved our mystery over the title quotes for the past 5 weeks, in that they are all elements of the Noble Eightfold Path in Buddhism.
Interesting.
And there was a theory on the forums relating to this that it was to do with the concept of samadhi, which I believe is just one of the elements of the Noble Eightfold Path. I think it's enlightenment is samadhi, but I'm sure someone will correct me.
I thought that was a character in the Nightmare VHS board game.
It was. That was the reference that I was trying to think of yesterday when we were briefly discussing this clue, Bindles. Yeah, everyone thought that might be a clue that Sam is the mole because Sam had E. And, this week proved that he was not.
Yeah. Womp womp.
But yes, Noble Eightfold Path is definitely the right theming appropriately. The question is who it relates to.
Well, not Michelle anymore.
Yeah, that's the one bright spot of Sam going home. And Michelle, I believe, still doesn't realise that of the 5 executions this season so far, 4 of them have been from her team.
You really got to wonder how bad you are at this thing when you get 4 contestants and they still go out this early in the season, when you've had a non-elimination as well.
You get 4 contestants going out pretty much back to back to back to back, and you still are the first team out when Logan had statistically the worst pool team that has ever been drafted in our competition. And I'm not saying this just to be a dickhead, Saunders, but I think it was 6.52 out of 10 was your average. We've never had one that low. Arguably, Michelle's was about half a point higher than that. You both definitely drafted terrible teams. But still, hang your head in shame, Michelle.
Into the oubliette she goes.
So, anything interesting this week that you want to talk about before we actually get into the episode proper?
Oh my god, I had the most annoying experience at trivia.
Oh, tell me.
So it was because it's Vernon Winter Carnival right now, and the theme for this year is 1980s.
Oh, present day for Canada.
I knew you were going to make some sort of.
We've already discussed that I was going to make that joke.
Yeah, it's just nice of Vernon to look towards the future.
Saunders posted something on Instagram about the Winter Carnival being themed around the 80s, and I'm like, the 80s have reached Canada already?
So this is what happened. So for the Vernon Winter Carnival, the trivia company that's based out of Cologne and has a bunch of weekly trivia nights here, they were able to find a spot to do monthly trivia nights again. So the month of the Winter Carnival, they always do a themed trivia night based around whatever the Winter Carnival theme is. So there was 80s trivia. So it was myself and 3 other friends who went, and 2 of the friends are a couple. And they've only come to trivia as a couple one other time. Usually it's just one out of the 2 who always shows up to trivia. And about every 5 seconds, they were complaining about something during trivia at the restaurant. It was the most annoyed I had been in a very long time. When she came to Harry Potter trivia, they did a special butterbeer themed cocktail. So every time we've been out to trivia, she always asks the waitress, "Oh, do you serve butterbeer here?" It's like, no, that's just a drink from Harry Potter and a special cocktail they made for a one-off event. So she was bugging the waitress about it. And she said, well, that had cream soda in it, and the bars don't normally carry cream soda. So she was all disappointed and got this other cocktail. And then she wanted a double, but wanted like a taller glass size, but didn't know if that would impact how much alcohol would be in the drink. And we had to explain to her how that works. And she spent about 5 minutes hemming and hawing over what she wanted her cup size to be. And then her other friend or one of the other person on our team, she had a fish and chips meal. And she kept offering to them, oh, would you like to try one of the French fries or a piece of the fish? And they both kept saying no. So then my friend was giving up her food to the waitress that she was done with the meal. And my one friend freaks out saying, what? You're having your dish taken away? I just said no because I thought you were still eating. So then the waitress just says, here, take the plate, and then eats some of her fish and chips. And then they just kept hemming and hawing over what food they wanted to order, to the point that the waitress would just stand there waiting for them to decide and not really acknowledge the waitress. Anyways, they eventually get their food, and within 2 bites, they both send back their food, even though they got 2 completely different meals. And then there were these stools at our table and chairs. So the one person sat in a stool, and then right away she was complaining how sore she was sitting on the stool. And there were about 3 or 4 different types of chairs in the restaurant that weren't being used, that we could switch out her stool with. And we kept asking her, oh, we can switch out that chair for you. And she just didn't really respond to us. So we had to physically grab the chair for her to keep trying. And then she'd always say, nope, this chair's not comfortable. Nope, that one's not comfortable. And this is pretty much what it was like every 5 seconds for about 2 hours.
She sounds exhausting.
Yes, I was really pissed off, and I actually had to leave trivia about 45 minutes early because I had to teach. And I was disappointed that I didn't leave over an hour early from trivia, because that's how annoyed and pissed off I was.
So what you're saying is this drunk Harry Potter lady was a teetotaler, exclusionary, radical fuckwit.
Sure.
Somebody will get that joke. Somebody will work that out.
Anything interesting from your week, Bindles?
Not really. Just sort of slowly working on an update to the challenge guide, which should hopefully be out later this year. But aside from that, not much.
I can't wait for the challenge guide.
Might be a while.
You just have to go through 4,800 seasons or whatever the hell they're at.
Yeah.
It's only claiming to be the longest running competition reality show in history now, with 40 seasons.
There's so many lies within that statement.
Yeah.
They genuinely did claim that in the opener of the 40th season. I think what they're going for is without taking a break, but also some years the challenges only had one season a year.
Yeah.
And I know Survivor, for all its many, many sins, took an entire year off, but I think they probably have that title in the US at least.
Yeah. Could also be just like years since it started, because I think that started in the mid 90s, something like that. Because Road Rules was still a thing.
Yeah, but I think they only did like every other year for Real World Road Rules Challenge in the beginning.
Yeah. I don't know.
They haven't done consecutive years anyway, I don't think. And in fact, do you know who the one mole contestant ever to appear on the challenge is?
I do. Does Logan?
Soundos?
Nope. It was the mole of Germany 5 who tried claiming that she was on the German version of Beauty and the Geek, so that people wouldn't see her as an intimidating person, rather than the seriously boring person that she actually is.
I'm a landscaper.
It was very much a Gary Hogaboom situation.
I went to Frankfurt University, but I didn't play there.
So, previously the final 7 were divided by moped, as 4 of them toured the ancient city of Angkor, while the other 3 learned the traditional Apsara dance. Nora chose not to participate, while Bridget and Micah tried to convey emotions to win the group money. At a woodworking studio, the mole was publicly briefed as to how to stop money getting into the pots, while everyone tried to copy Buddha. At the execution, the only emotion being conveyed was sadness, as Bridget became the 4th person sent home.
Yeah.
Not Nora.
No.
Not Nora again.
I can't believe Nora survived the final ever episode of Years to Mole.
I know. As you may have guessed, I've already prepared pretty much all of the stuff for this week, and a lot of it is just, yep, this show's cancelled now, themed.
Is that it? That's the podcast? We're not even continuing onwards?
No, that's the silence. Not even having an outro this week. It's just respectful silence for this show being cancelled.
Yeah.
What do they play on Remembrance Day? The post?
The last post.
The last post?
Yeah. Is that what we're going to play as the outro this week?
Not the first time I've had to say this, but get your bugle out, Saunders.
Peace out and just chill until the next World War.
Yeah, I think we have to do that as the outro.
I don't know any horn players. Believe me, if I was musically inclined, I would absolutely do this joke, but I'm not.
No.
There's got to be a soundtrack for it they can just throw in there.
That's all right. I know people who are good at blowing.
Blowing horns specifically.
Never mind.
I highly doubt that anyone has done an entirely brass version of the V's to Mole theme. I think it's probably a little bit too niche. However hilarious it would be.
Well, they play it on a keytar.
Back to the 80s again.
Forward to the 80s.
So we begin, as always, with a briefing of the mole, which is Rick saying that
money will be made by the effort of your fellow candidates. Celebrate its success, even if you were disappointed. Your chances will come.
I think that I have to mirror the group the whole time. Logical, right?
And I'll say this now, if that preview is hinting at a pot drain next week, I am going to cut a bitch.
Yep, we were so close to having a season of this show without the annual mid-season going to shit, and yet here we are once again.
Yeah. And the most important bit of this is, if it is a pot drain next week, they have 2 episodes to build it back up. We're going to be sub 10 grand still, probably. We're on a nice trajectory at the moment, and they need to cut this shit out if they're even thinking of doing a bid for the exemption for the finale.
Congratulations, Stein. You've won €20.
Get a massage.
So the episode title is another element of the Noble Eightfold Path, the right effort, and it is day 11 in Siem Reap, or more specifically, Angkor Wat. And it is also Rose's birthday, and she gets the promise of a twerk off Stein.
I wish they would have just kept pulling over and opening the door and having random groups of locals sing. Pull over, and it's a bunch of random Cambodians. Drive a bit further, and then it's the Trust Nobody podcast people singing happy birthday. Keep driving, and then pull over, and it's your Owen dressed as Elvis Presley singing happy birthday, and just have that for the first 5 minutes of the episode.
And then they keep driving, and then it's an old Italian lady, and if they help her sing happy birthday, they win money.
And then at the end, they open it up, and it's somebody blowing into a didgeridoo to the tune of Happy Birthday.
That does mean that day 11 was the 6th of July, which means they genuinely did film this in probably the hottest time of year in Cambodia.
Yeah, well, you could see Rick and Micah both with visible sweat just during the introduction for this first challenge.
Oh, Rick's sweat gets funnier. Rick, when they're doing the photographer reveal, is hilariously sweaty. His entire front is a different colour to his shoulders.
I bet he had unprecedented amounts of armpit sweat.
Yeah.
Look at how soaked I am, guys.
There's a very good reason why he has to change his shirt for the afternoon challenge. So yeah, she's also serenaded by locals as they enter Angkor, and Rick meets them at Angkor Wat, the largest religious building in the world. It is everywhere from Cambodia's flag to their football shirts, and he accuses them of not paying attention and shows a secret photograph taken of them at a cafe. They have to find out which of the 8 photographers in front of him took the photo, and there are tourists around Angkor Wat who could help them with clues. They've got 45 minutes to correctly identify the photographer and one attempt only, but if they do identify him, they earn €2,000 for the pot. And they need to work in pairs, so it's Sam and Nora, Rose and Sophie, and Micah and Stein.
We've said this week after week, it's not necessarily the most espionage mole-esque challenge, but it's just another fun challenge that they've thrown into the catalog this season.
Yeah, this is a second tier challenge for me because you could have done it elsewhere in the world. But God, was this a fun challenge.
Yeah. I think a lot of my problem with this season is I think these challenges were sort of designed with the sort of pacing of Oman in mind, with the shorter, snappier episodes, and then they've sort of had to extend them out the extra 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But this is one where even though it takes 25 minutes or whatever to get to the end, it doesn't feel like it's dragging, where things like the mole selection or the quiz later in this episode kind of do.
Yeah, this is something that Saunders hasn't necessarily come across because if you think back to the premiere, you weren't even familiar with the new titles. Yeah, Oman's episodes, I don't think topped out over about 50 minutes. I think most of them were pretty much broadcast length of 42 minutes, plus or minus about 2 minutes.
Yep. So the shortest one was 37:23. The longest one was 47:24.
Yeah. So it's a significant chunk of time less than these seasons end up being.
Yeah. And they only had 2 challenges an episode there. And they had the weird pacing with the mid-episode eliminations and all that sort of stuff. But it feels like these challenges are a little bit slower than that. And I'm not sure if necessarily that's a good thing overall.
If it was a weaker cast, it would be much more noticeable.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. This season cannot now reach the heights of Georgia, I will say.
Yeah.
But we've still got enough in this season for me to actually not cancel everything about watching it.
Yeah.
It's just a real disappointment that everything so far this season was leading up to Sam winning and maybe making his dad proud, as he does say a few times in this episode, which really tickled me. And then it just ends up with him getting cut off at the knees at the end of episode 6.
Where did it tickle you?
In my heart. Don't get excited, Saunders.
I think sort of the first couple of episodes we were looking at the season and thinking, well, this could be about as good as Georgia when, if it keeps going this way. And now it sort of looks like it's going to top out at around Czechia minus the bad twist, which is fine and definitely an improvement over Mexico and South Africa. But, they've got room to improve next year or in Renaissance.
Renaissance is going to be the official name, by the way. I'm putting it out there. I don't give a shit what the actual subtitle is going to be. We're going to call it Renaissance.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement over Mexico, because I think there's only been 1 or 2 challenges where they've sat down.
Mexico is very much catered to that cast. The cast of old people.
Well, we're flying to another city in the Mexico season, so all of you guys, just if you need any extra assistance getting on the plane, now is the time for pre-boarding.
Yeah, they had to add a few days into the Mexico filming schedule because it took that long for Rihanna to be allowed off the plane, because she was obviously the last person ever to be allowed off the plane because she needed special assistance and all that.
Yeah, everyone in pre-boarding except for Rosario.
Actually, there has been quite a lot of sitting down challenges this season, because we've had the mole selection. A lot of that was sitting down. We had the karaoke was sitting down.
They were standing.
Yeah, this is a very old cast again. I
Yeah.
think this cast is about as old as last season's was, really. It just doesn't feel as old because, these people can actually walk. If you think we had 2 of the really ancient people last to Final 5 last time. So,
Yeah.
If they were any older, they'd be saying, Angkor, what? What'd you say? What is this place called? Angkor, what? But luckily they're not that old.
I'm pretty sure Case was born 74.
So to cross off photographers, they need hints as to which characteristics the photographers have, and the tourists all send selfies from their locations all around the Angkor complex. Did you notice the thing that is going to time capsule this season more than anything else, though?
No.
It's actually alluded to by something that Sam says, which is interesting because they don't usually allude to the things that time capsule these seasons. All of the selfies weren't selfies. They were B-reels.
Oh, I
which were big last summer.
Yeah. God, it already feels dated.
Yeah, I believe from my extensive knowledge of young people apps that B-Reel chooses a time for you during the day and you have to send a selfie of your location where you are at that time.
Right.
Which, I mean, I'm going to sound incredibly old at this point, sounds fucking pointless to me.
Yeah.
He old.
Yeah, but these were all framed as B-Reels, and Sam actually calls them a B-Reel at one point. Presumably because he has young children. So Rose and Sophie disagree on how to get to their location, and Micah says she's letting Stein take control to see if he's sabotaging. Sam and Nora are the first to find someone, and they also find out that the clue that they are given is in Khmer. The woman that they found is not allowed to tell them what it means, so they've got to find someone else to translate, and they find out that they're not looking for the photographer who has red sunglasses.
Sophie and Ruse were so incredibly suspicious during this challenge. They ticked all of the standard boxes for how to sabotage a walkie-talkie based challenge. They couldn't hear people through the walkie-talkie, and their phone was on airplane mode the whole time.
They were, but I think they were drawing too much attention to it. As much as I don't want to root against my own team here, I think Stein and Micah were way more suspicious in this challenge than Sophie and Rose were.
I think that's my thing with Rose this entire season is, yes, she's doing all of the things you'd expect somebody being the mole to do, but they're really highlighting every single one of them. Sort of in the same way that they highlighted every single thing that Yuri did, and I would like to have a little bit more faith in the new showrunner and the new production crew and all of that sort of stuff to not do that again.
The other thing as well is that the main classic bit of mole sabotage whenever there is an interdiscipline challenge is holding the button down so no one else can talk.
Yeah.
We see that happens to Rose and Sophie.
Yeah.
Not from Rose and Sophie.
Yeah.
So that says to me that it's someone on one of the other two teams. And let's be honest, it ain't Nora.
Yeah. Well, it ain't Nora, and I don't think Sam was even holding the thing from memory.
No.
But the interesting thing is when it happens, you see Sophie's fingers sort of move away from the walkie-talkie, so you can kind of tell it's not her either.
Like, as much as I don't want to rule anyone out from my team, because, I am on track for a complete Helmstone clean sweep here, I think I would lean more towards Micah and Stein being sabotagey in this challenge than I would Sophie and Rose.
Yeah.
And Micah had that really off confessional about saying something along the lines of, "Oh, I just let Stein take the lead and I didn't interfere with him." It's almost as if it would be in a confessional you would see in a mole reveal in the reunion of something along the lines of, "I knew he was screwing up, so I didn't say anything." It almost felt like that it was a clip from a confessional like that.
There's also the confusion at the end of this challenge as to who is actually responsible for the potential sabotage that they nix of blue sunglasses versus blue bag. It feels like one of those two knew that they needed to exclude the guy with the blue sunglasses.
Yeah. It was also interesting that it's Micah and Stein who come up with the idea for Sam and Nora to go and find that one photographer that Rose and Sophie didn't find. And I'm like, why have 4 people waste time looking for one thing?
Yeah. It's interesting looking at the suspicion percentages this week because Rose is still number 1, but only just. Stein is a very close second. Stein went up, I think it was 13% this week.
Have we really been overlooking Stein this whole season?
I don't know how. He's pretty tall.
I certainly think that the sabotaging, if there was any attempted sabotaging, it feels more like it was Micah and Stein who were sabotaging than any of the other 2 pairs to me.
Yeah.
I also like how, because of how this challenge and any photo themed challenge runs on WhatsApp, that every single photo seems to come from Rick like it's from his personal collection. Every single photo is credited to Rick for some reason.
I wonder how much she has to pay for storage on Google One or whatever that is each month.
Well, it's WhatsApp, so I know WhatsApp probably hasn't come to Canada yet, but it's it's like Facebook Messenger, but more people use it.
Did I tell you about the signs in Uruguay?
You do not.
Are they made out of like pieces of beef?
Yeah, pieces of beef or mate straws. No, actually. So when it displays street signs, it has the WhatsApp logo attached to the street signs in Uruguay. This was 7 years ago. That really threw me off when I was there.
Okay.
My local estate has a very fun WhatsApp group. It's like Nextdoor, but for even more crazy people. There was a woman who posted about 9:30 this morning saying, "Has anyone else got 2 Nigerian women outside their house talking very loudly on the phone?" It gets better. And then this goes back and forth for 2 hours of people going, "Oh no," and I'm not sure the Nigerian. And then it gets better, Saunders. Then at 12:25, I get a message off another neighbour in this group saying, "No need to stress at all. These 2 lovely ladies, my wife and her friend, are simply enjoying a nice stroll, exploring houses, just like someone else mentioned. Her friend is looking to buy a home in our area. And just to clear things up, they're not Nigerians. Let's keep the vibe positive and not overthink it. It's about enjoying the moment."
Oh.
I read this message, and all I could think of was one of my favourite jokes from the Wallace and Gromit Christmas special last year, of Feathers McGraw being dressed as a nun and it being described as an innocent nun going for a pleasure cruise. Just the way he phrased that message, all I could think of was he was one step away from describing them as innocent nuns going for a pleasure cruise.
They aren't from Nigeria. You guys are way off. They're from Mali.
Yeah.
Get your facts straight.
Anything else you want to talk about in this challenge, other than Rose being distracted by a baby monkey?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know if Rose would have done too well in this quiz on any questions related to the quiz in this challenge, especially the end of it. So what should we do, Rose? Which photographer is? Oh, there's a child monkey covered by an adult monkey. Whoa, this is so exciting.
I don't know why, but it just made me laugh so hard that one of Sophie and Rose's translators described the photographer as not allowed to wear like the elephant pants. And I'm like, well, that's bad news for Matt Barr's career reinvention.
I should have known that one was going to elicit a Matt Barr joke.
This is an unaired clip, but I guess the child monkey and its mother sang "Happy Birthday" to Rose at Angkor Wat. It's like, well, how does all of Cambodia know it's her birthday? Even the monkeys know it's her birthday. She's like one of those 21-year-olds walking around Las Vegas with the "It's my 21st birthday" sash.
They're not monkeys, they're innocent nuns going around for a pleasure cruise.
And also Stein unsuccessfully flirts with one of the photographers.
I like how the two challenges are drawn out enough to where it's just a 2-minute roast by Micah about Stein not having Riz. just not having any game whatsoever.
We got a lot of Micah in this episode.
We did, which is a good thing, because I would say that she's certainly been one of the quieter characters in the final 6.
Yeah.
And she's fun.
Yeah.
You know who didn't get a lot of footage this episode once again?
Nora.
Nora. Again.
Purple Nora, as we're going to call her now. Jesus, she's not in this episode.
Season. She's not in this season. She got a lot of, not a lot, but she got a noticeable amount of airtime in the season premiere. And then after episode 1, she got a little bit less in episode 2. And it feels like we haven't seen her in the past 4 episodes at all.
I was gobsmacked when she got a green screen, because how the hell is she getting any information of anyone else? Surely we'd see it.
I mean, people seem to like her.
Oh, she seems lovely, but, like...
Where is she?
If there was any interesting footage of her, you'd hope they would have shown it by now.
The monkeys got more airtime than her this week.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who has made it to Final 5 in Vidum before that was just this under-edited.
Well, Rosario. Renomi.
Yeah, Rosario was pretty quiet, to be fair. Basically, anyone you've suspected at the end, Saunders, has tended to be really, really quiet. So, inevitably you're going to select Nora at the final 3.
I just can't see her being the mole at all.
No, neither can I. Famous last words. Not that, we've got any more episodes this season to have that come back to bite us. So, Nora and Sam are the first back, and they go through all the clues, and Sam cleverly tries to exclude one of the photographers in that it was a picture taken on a digital camera, and he's not carrying a digital camera. Clever.
I wonder if the producers even thought of that.
I don't think they did. I think Sam outsmarted them there, to be honest.
Yeah.
And with the blue bag clue correct, despite either Stein or Micah's attempted sabotage there, they exclude all 7 of the right ones, and they earn €2,000 for the challenge.
Just one more thing. Nora getting completely pissed off with the lack of communication in this challenge. Like, did you catch this?
There's a massive degree of irony in Nora being pissed off at anyone for the lack of communication when we've had no communication off her all season.
Yeah. Like, did you catch that everyone else was, being mole contestants? And they were asking whether, they should go and do something. And Nora just snaps on the walkie-talkie. Would be fucking great, thank you. I can't believe neither of you two caught this.
Yeah, we should be seeing this side of Nora a lot more, because when she has confessionals, she's really snarky with people.
Yeah.
Maybe she was just too rude for them. Maybe she was just too horrible about people.
I was distracted by the monkeys.
Also, like, Sophie flirting with her clue guy as well. Like, basically right after Stein completely failed. I'm like, this is the horniest season ever, and we just had a fuck bond 2 years ago.
Doesn't help that this episode ends with a massage.
No.
And 2 people getting a happy ending.
Well, one of them.
Sam gets a briefly happy ending.
Yeah.
So they are then allowed a little bit of time to explore Angkor Wat, and we get loads of B-roll as you'd expect. But the interesting thing here is Micah teaching everyone how to do a bit of Apsara, including correctly doing the hand movement that she couldn't last week.
Oh. Did you notice Rick asking the photographer in English whether he had the money? I'm like, maybe that was just a thing with the old showrunner about how he rarely spoke in English, because he's done it a lot this season.
Yeah, and Rick was never really that confident with English in the old showrunner's regime.
Yeah, like I know there were times where he did it, like the haunted house in South Africa. I think he spoke English there. I think he did it once or twice in Mexico as well.
Yeah. He seems a lot more confident in speaking English this season.
Yeah. So I'm wondering whether maybe that was something just from the old regime that they've changed for this season.
Yeah. So after lunch, they then head to the Atharkan house, and it is time for yet another quiz show parody, which feels like it's hinting at something as well. They are in pairs that have been decided off screen: Sophie and Nora, Stein and Micah, and Sam and Rose. The three people who are in front of Rick will be asked trivia questions and can secretly press a button if they don't know the answer. If they press a button, then their partner in the mole center will be able to answer the question secretly themselves, or ask three Malota for the answer. If they ask the Malota, who are our friends from Trust Nobody, then they will earn no money for the pot. The other two must then try and guess whether they cheated on that question. After 9 questions are asked, then the team with the lowest score will be out, and after another 4, whoever has fooled the other person most will have a game-changing advantage.
Mole center is not a clue. Mole center is not a clue. Mole center is not a clue.
How did you go with the quiz?
I did a lot better than they did.
Yeah.
Must
Like,
admit, did forget the existence of Arno.
Yeah.
I couldn't have told you the Mark Marie one, although I think it ended up basically being a clue in the UK one as well.
Yeah.
I think I got all the others. I certainly know who Angela is.
Yeah. I got 11 out of 13. I missed the Mark Marie one because 20 years ago, who can remember? And I missed the one about Sahil because he was the least memorable person in a season I've only watched once.
I remembered Sahil. I didn't remember Arno, even though he was the Bond villain who ended up getting picked with the €5,000 Sword of Damocles.
Yeah.
Once I Googled who Arno was, I'm like, yeah, it's Sahil. I know the answer
Yeah.
to that question. But it did take me Googling who Arno was.
I think I missed the looping one, even though I recently saw the season. I was just thinking, what the hell is looping? And I saw the challenge, and I thought, oh, right. I missed the Piccolo one and the Sahil one too.
I just thought it was funny that like some of these questions were really, really, really easy, like Eater Discipline and Angela Grothausen / Shrife. And what language do they speak in China? And like that, those some of them were really, really easy, and then other ones were like really like if you weren't a super fan of the show, you were never going to guess it.
Like the looping one.
Yeah.
Yeah, looping was the hardest of the set. I remembered Piccolo's
Hmm.
because I remember it being a wonderful word for bellboys. But yeah, like the looping one,
Yeah.
unless you've seen that season really recently, you're not going to get it.
Yeah. I did like when Rick was asking the question about Angela and he's waiting for, I think it was Sophie to give the answer. And he just sort of stands there snarking, being like, it's been 25 years already, so I understand you have to think for a moment. And I'm like, Angela is the moment.
You will put respect on the name of that woman. She sung Private Dancer for you.
For us all, for the planet.
Yeah. And like, you could tell Rick really likes Angela from just the way he confirmed when it was correct. Like, you could tell he admires her.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? She is everything.
But yeah, it was funny when that second question with Rob and Nathan in the Chinese taxi was asked, and then you have Micah saying, or I think Stein too, saying, "Wow, these questions are really specific. Who would get this?" I'm thinking, I think you can just infer what the answer is. I don't think you even need to. You just need to know the season was in China. That's all. That's the only piece of knowledge you need to know to answer that question.
Yeah, even if you just know it's China, it's a 50-50 guess. And if you know that most of China speaks Mandarin, you probably punt for that one.
Yeah. Like you just have to know that season exists as opposed to the Mark Marie one with what did Mark Marie do in this one part of a challenge of an episode in a season that aired 20 years ago?
Yeah.
That's a bit of a different level compared to, did they film a season in China?
Yeah, like that felt like I don't know if like that's a clue or whatever, but that felt like really out of place compared to the other questions because we had the question about Aguilar, we had the question about Horace Cohen, birthplace New York City, Netherlands.
It's Horace Cohen, family name Horace Cohen, New York City, Netherlands, USA.
You know I don't listen to you.
To give him his full title. I only know that because I put that every single time we mention him. Because it still makes me laugh.
Yeah, so we had the question about Angela, we had the question about Horace Cohen, etc., etc. And then basically that's the only question we get from the first 12 seasons aside from that. I'm like, why would you ask that question over, say, something from Colombia or Sri Lanka or either of the last 2 years, but things that people might have actually seen?
The thing that set my radar going on that is that we obviously saw a clip of Angela from the Sydney Harbour Bridge in season 1, which, if you translate that into the alphabet, is A. We saw a clip of Mark Marie from season 5, which is E.
Yep.
That feels like they're going to be spelling something out if you have those letters in the mix.
Yeah, but like if you take all the other seasons as well, then you get like a K, a Q, and a V. You get the Oregon question, which is 17, so that'd be K. You get a U for Czechia or Renaissance, depending on whether you're counting Renaissance. You get V for Albania.
It feels like they were trying to give us a clue there somehow, and I don't know what it is.
My theory is it's got something to do with how Rick used the phrase "keen of deception" in both rounds when he was doing the results. And I don't know whether either they're saying the mole is a man, which would be Stein now, or whether they're doing like the Miss Mole thing they did in Oregon, where they're pointing out, if you're looking this way, that's not the right way to be looking, so you should be looking at one of the women, which is basically useless at this point.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking of when we were discussing this earlier is maybe it's not a king you're looking for, maybe it's a noble. As in the Eightfold Path.
Yeah.
I think
interesting.
Monarchy and nobility may be going hand in hand with that clue.
Yeah.
Especially given that we pretty much know that Fuzzy's on the right lines with the Noble Eightfold Path, I think.
Yeah. That might explain why those portraits in the restaurant sort of look like royal family portraits.
Yeah. I wonder if it's worth looking back at those portraits now to see if anyone had been photoshopped onto a king or something like that.
Maybe.
There's not a lot really more to discuss about this challenge. I quite enjoyed it as a sneaky look back through history.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a brilliant challenge, but I quite enjoyed watching it. Two things I do want to point out from this challenge that did amuse me. Number one is the fact that when Stein answers the Mandarin question and Sam and Sophie both say, yeah, he's lying, Rick's response is immediately, noted.
Yeah.
What did he do that? Did he play that trivia game on the cruise with you, Michael?
I presume so. I'm assuming that Fuzzy's going to have screenshotted that for this week, to be honest. And number two was a sneaky bit of music, which may end up being a clue that I wanted to point out.
Yep.
Because in the We're Not in Kiev Friend clip, it's scored with, I believe, a piece of incidental music from the hit television program Only Murders in the Building.
Oh.
It has a very recognizable soundtrack, and it's a brilliant show anyway, but the music's fantastic on it as well. I recognized it immediately. It's from Only Murders. I couldn't tell you which track it is.
Yeah.
But those tracks are all themed around locations generally. So it's the sort of thing that they might sneak in as a clue. Just as an example, the last track of season 4 is called The Fountain, and that's where they find the body for season 5.
Huh.
So there's something potentially in that.
I will say, like, I know people on the Discord and everything weren't so hot on this challenge. I feel like it's a perfectly fine challenge if it's only going to take 10 minutes of the episode. In an episode like this, where you've got to basically fill half an hour, roughly, this took forever.
Yes, it did.
It's a challenge you can do once every few years. Since 25th season, it's like a 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look back through history. At least they were able to space out the questions a bit. I mean, there was a bit more. Did definitely lean towards the Rick and Art seasons, as you guys pointed out, especially the
Yeah.
Renaissance alumni being referenced for 3 of the questions, sadly. But I wish Rick was bold enough to say, on which season was I a contestant on? And then have Micah say, wait, Rick, you were a contestant on Vidum before you were a host?
Yeah.
Really?
The other thing that kind of lends itself towards them spelling something out is the fact that this is now technically in their books the 26th season, including Renaissance. So it's the perfect time for him to do a spelling something out clue.
Yeah.
I wish they would have asked a question from the junior season.
And how many euros did they earn in the first junior season?
0.
The equivalent of 79. Stop being a pedant. It was something hilarious on Discord today that I wanted to reference.
I wish at the end of each, after each trivia question was asked, if Rick said, okay, that's your answer. On a scale of 0 to 100, how confident are you that they spoke Mandarin?
I did think that maybe when we tell Fuzzy she's not allowed to just put the correct banners in the middle square, she should have to pick a square on one of the rows depending on how confident she is in the banner.
And then followed up with the other 2 people. How confident do you think Stein was lying on a scale of 0 to 100?
Just like 100 euros per correct answer, but you got to say how confident you are, and then you only win that many euros.
Yay for more random figures they can't fulfill. So after the first round where Stein gets eliminated, they have 200 euros of a potential 900, and then Sophie and Sam cheat on all the remaining 4 questions for a total of 200 euros of 1,300 for the challenge, 2,200 of 3,300 for the episode, and 8,455 euros of 30,100 for the season so far.
Did you guys ever watch the Netflix game show Bullshit with Howie Mandel?
No, because I have standards.
I have seen bits of it, and I think it was maybe a bit based on a show I auditioned for during COVID.
Because this challenge essentially played out as an even more extreme episode of Bullshit, because in that they're given a fairly difficult trivia question with 4 multiple choice answers. They pick one, and no matter what, they have to come up with a reason as to why they picked that answer. And then the other contestants have to decide whether that person is lying or telling the truth. And if you pick the wrong answer, you have to really make sure you convince everyone else that you're telling the truth, that it's the correct answer, and that the lie you tell is the correct reason for why it's the right answer. But the contestants still get it right about a third of the time, where they don't have to bullshit anybody. But here, especially in that second round, where all 4 times it was just they were always having to lie that they knew the answer, it would just make for a really uneventful episode of Bullshit, where everything is just, yep, that person's lying, yep, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie.
I mean, as much as this was a little bit boring, just watching them having to go to the Trust Nobody people every single time, I don't mind that they did a challenge like this with people who sort of weren't huge fans of the show, compared to like if Survivor did it nowadays, where you basically you would have to go forever because people would keep getting every single question right, and you basically just run out of questions. Like I don't mind that they're doing this in a cast where Superfan is not a personality.
You know what this just reminds me of, with the Survivor tending to cast super fans, is that during this challenge we had a contestant who is the son of a previous host of this very TV show, and even he couldn't answer all of his own questions correctly.
Well, to be fair, he didn't get a single question about his dad's era. Like, because there's one question from Peter Yan and it went to somebody else.
I just love the fact that the theme of this episode is basically Sam being asked repeatedly, do you think your dad's going to be proud of you for this? And the answer is invariably, I think so, but the subtext is, hell no.
Like, could you imagine just Jeff Probst's niece being on Survivor and her doing a trivia challenge and just saying, wait, that happened on this show? What? Who is this Boston Bob character?
I mean, as we have previously discussed on this podcast at length, it is wonderful to see Survivor superfans lose. I'm mainly thinking of of the Jeopardy Tournament of Champions last week, where former Survivor loser Drew Basile did think that he'd won his semi-final and then had a little tantrum when he realised he hadn't.
Oh,
And a lot of the Jeopardy fans who liked him beforehand did spot him do this and got a bit pissed off at him.
oh, somebody played the hidden immunity daily double.
So Sam ends up in the pool after this challenge due to Stein having some frustration to get out, but him and Rose were the winners of the challenge and the keepers of the cursed information.
Do you think this information was always going to be the prize, or did they just stick this back in because Ray got eliminated a couple of weeks ago and they need somebody to know this before the next challenge?
No, it was absolutely meant to be a different advantage, and they needed someone to have prior information for this, and he didn't pass on the information correctly to Sam and Sophie.
Yeah, because this feels like the sort of thing where in any other situation this would have been an exemption.
Yeah, it would have been maybe an exemption, or maybe a couple of yokers each, or maybe information of a hidden exemption in another challenge or something.
I can't remember the last time they've had a season with so few advantages.
No. This week's Next Time preview is the first time we've heard the word exemption this season, I think.
I don't mind that we haven't had any.
No, it's certainly the first time that we've seen evidence of there being any exemptions in this season. And this is, in terms of advantages, more on par with like the UK series than with Vidum of the past 15 years.
Yeah.
I was even thinking with the early Vidum seasons, where season 1, even they gave out an exemption. They already had 1 or 2. I'm trying to remember when Petra won her exemption. They already had 1 or 2 offers by this point in the season.
Well, they had, I think, at least 2, because there was one in the dice game. I think it was the dice game. Maybe there was. Anyway, there was something there. That was
episode 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah.
And then Petra's exemption was late in the season, because that's where they had to try and find her disguised as a local. And that was at Final 6 or Final 5, I think. But I can't remember which.
Yeah, so UK1 had its first exemption in episode 5 in a series that was 8 episodes long. So it's pretty much on par with this.
So yeah, it's interesting that even the advantage that's offered here, it's not really an advantage that's being offered.
It feels like one of the things they've picked up from Belgium is they're doing like advantages that feel like one-off sort of things rather than, oh, we need an advantage here, let's just stick some jokers in. Like, I know Belgium loves to do, go and watch this video of what you all said before as an advantage, but this is, I think, maybe the second time ever that Vidum's done that. And it feels a little bit fresher here than it does in Belgium at this point.
Yeah, I'll say this before we get all the rage next week of, oh, you've drained the pot using bidding for an exemption for the finale. But I've said it before. I love it when the final exemption of the season is given out at Final 5 and they have to defend it. It's way more fun than just giving someone an exemption at Final 4.
And I feel like there's some sort of twist that's going to happen where it's like they did in Dominican Republic, where it's, you can bid whatever you want, but it's not the highest bidder who gets the thing. I think maybe it'll be something like the lowest bidder gets it.
I think there's going to be more to it than that. I have a little more faith in the new showrunner to not just do a pot train in episode 7.
Yeah.
But I am worried that they're going to do a pot drain in episode 7, I'll be honest.
Yeah, imagine if they just go all in with pot drain, I don't know, 2 exemptions and a few yokers all in one episode. Well, we made up for the past 6 weeks.
So they wake up on day 12 and are taken to the Meta Residence Spa, which means that Facebook has made it to Cambodia. Sophie says that massage is part of the culture wherever you go in Cambodia. And I'm also glad that no one remembers the code and mine and Ant's appearance on it, because when we got the Meta World Peace question, I did describe Meta as a weird name that I remembered.
Just an update, there were 2 exemptions in the first Vidum. Episodes 5 and 6.
Yeah, the Petra one was episode 6 then.
Yeah, UK1 had 2 exemptions in, I think it was episodes 5 and 7, and UK2 had 1 exemption in episode 5, and that was it.
Yeah, I think there were 3 in Australia one. There was the camping overnight one, where basically if you quit, you get an exemption. There was laser tag or paintball, whichever one it was. And And I think there was one later in the season as well.
I'm 4 episodes through New Zealand one, and they haven't had any yokers or exemptions.
They don't have the runtime. It's like 22-minute episodes.
Yeah.
Do we have to spend 4 minutes explaining what a yoker is, or do we just drop that from the season, guys?
So everyone is treated to a massage, and Marieke immediately does not trust this show and keeps looking around. And Stein thinks that it might be a Meet the Mole challenge like in other seasons. Sam and Rose receive an envelope on each of their massage tables with prior knowledge of the next day's airport assignment. They get a picture of the suitcase and confirmation of what it contains, which is a tablet with the immediate reactions from the lift after they were all told that they were or were not the mole by Rick. If they smuggle the tablet into their suitcase, they and they alone will be the one person who gets to see everyone else's reactions. Ray's already gone home with this information, and it's time for one of them to go home with it too.
Yeah.
It's cursed.
Yeah, it is. It's an absolute cursed advantage.
Yeah. I just think it's funny, just sort of how they clearly wanted this to be the big twist of the season, and it's failed like 3 separate times now.
Yep. And Rick interrupts their post-massage lunch to confirm that Rose and Sam just got their valuable prize and what it was in vague terms, and also to tell them to prepare for test and execution. It is now time for the test. 20 questions about the identity and actions of the mole. Whoever knows least goes home except for the mole who can never go home. And it takes place in Siem Reap's old market.
Do they have to steal things from it?
No, but they do have to find the black exemption that's hidden in the market, just like in Hong Kong.
And those security guards with the weird, like, cyberpunk Cheshire cat grins, they're just walking around with a shawl and you've got to find them.
Of course.
But don't pick the one with the blue sunglasses or the elephant pants.
Yeah.
Micah says that she thinks the mole could have tried to misinterpret the translations to sabotage the correct characteristics like Stein did, or, like she did. Nora says her and Sam worked well together, but everyone else had a connection problem, and she's now been told that Rose put the phone on airplane mode. Sophie has seen some moles. It was hot, so you don't need to run, but Rose had no rush. At one point, they get no more photos, and it turned out the phone was on airplane. Rose says Micah tried to sabotage at the last second with the sunglasses. Stein says Rose is so flashy as her mole, and he knows in the end he'll see Rose's blatant mole actions right in front of their eyes. He's watching her. And Sam thinks that the mole is sabotaging because the mole could have just pressed the button to guarantee they would lose €100 every time. He's got tunnel vision, but whether it's the right tunnel vision is yet to be seen. I will say, at this point in the episode, I was a little bit nervous for Sam because he's the only person who didn't give us any specific suspicions, and that is usually what happens when someone goes home.
Yeah.
The execution takes place at Wat Priya. Rick says they're over halfway and all still in the game. He's curious what has brought them so far. Is it follow the money, keeping an eye on key positions, a gut feeling, or has somebody already worked out how they chose their own mole?
I did think it was interesting that I think, is this the first time we've had like actual confirmation that the selection process was a puzzle that could be possible to solve?
Yes. It was very interesting. It felt like another Miss Mole clue, to be honest. It's like, yeah, none of you idiots have actually worked this out how you pick your own mole yet. And if you do,
Yeah.
you're going to work out who the mole is.
I
think the characteristics were a smokescreen.
Yeah.
I think they focus so much on those characteristics that it has to have been a red herring. I think it probably was all down to the one question test somehow. Maybe it was even as blatant as the person who got the most.
It would have been funnier if they went with the Dwight K. Schrute theory of choose the mole who is the most medium suspected.
It might even be that. This is the thing. I think it's going to be very interesting when we do find out how the selection was done, because there's obviously a trick to it that nobody has really spotted yet.
Yeah, and they're obviously going to tell us in the reunion.
Yeah.
I kind of got the feeling that the first question about do you think the mole, like whatever it was about the Jokers, that basically divided them into 2 groups, and then they've basically picked the mole from the group who wasn't going to get the Jokers, because like why does the mole need a Joker? But I haven't worked out how they got from that 5 down to 1.
It's something about that one question test, I think.
Yeah.
I just don't know what, because the characteristics thing and the fact that it was so focused on in episode 1, the characteristics and people picking the top 3s and all that sort of stuff, It felt like a smokescreen.
And especially with the Noble Eightfold Path stuff this season, they're really focusing on characteristics of a good mole.
There's something to it.
Yeah.
Or could it have been something like some of the characteristics were on the Noble Eightfold Path?
Oh, that's an idea. And then maybe whoever got the most of those.
Yeah. I think you talking has just kind of flicked a switch in my head. I think it's going to be that. I think maybe I'm wrong about the characteristics being a red herring, but it's specific characteristics that aren't red herrings. Because this entire season is themed around Buddhism, isn't it? So much Buddhist influence in this season.
Did we see everyone in the premiere answer that question in the interview about what 3 characteristics it was, or
I can't remember.
Or was it just like some people and then not others?
I think it was some. Okay. I don't remember all being shown.
Yeah, because I wonder if maybe the mole is like the only person who picked 3 characteristics that were on the Noble Eightfold Path, where everybody else picked something sort of weird.
I have also just thought that there may be a hidden hint in Micah's hand action, in that maybe that hand action she's doing is the character for M in Chimera or something. I mean, just to spoil it for you, Saunders, Micah is my top suspect this week.
She's definitely. I was shuffling her to the between 1, 2, and 3 throughout the episode. I'm definitely. She may end up being my top suspect too by the end of next week. Just to copy your suspicions. No.
She was the most moley she's been all season in this episode, I think.
I wish during the execution that when Rick calls Rose's name, where he just says Rose, and then immediately breaks out into a chorus of happy birthday, and a bunch of Cambodian locals pop out from behind the bushes and deliver her cake and everything.
Balloons drop from the sky.
Yeah. By the way, red screen. You're out. Bye-bye.
So before the execution, Rick does say that their own mole is very excited about the next day's game, but one person won't experience it at all.
Yeah, they're so excited they're at half-mast. The mole is at half-mast going into tomorrow.
That's a clue that it must be Stein.
Well, we've already established that Sam is not the hardest.
Sophie, Stein, Nora, and Micah all get green screens, leaving the curse of the airport information to strike again. Rose is the 5th name typed in, and hers is green, meaning People's Prince Sam has the red.
Aww.
The classic final 6, everybody's name gets typed in elimination round.
When was the last time they typed in every single person's name? Feels like it's been a few years.
It's been a while with 6 people.
Yeah.
But also 6th is a really cursed spot for Mole in terms of the most entertaining person going out. It doesn't always happen.
No.
But you usually lose a big character at 6.
Yeah. Not you, Papine.
Yeah. Sorry, Papine. Not you. But
others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Arth was 6th, wasn't she?
Yeah. I was trying to remember whether there was somebody in between, but then I realised that was the non-elimination.
Yeah, 6th tends to be a bit of a curse spot for big characters, and unfortunately Sam does fall foul of that curse.
Venom Renaissance, and then all of the people finish 6th.
That'd be quite interesting, actually.
Yeah.
You get some really good people in there. And Papine. He says he's happy with how far he's come, and he thinks that his dad will be proud. He's got no regrets about not wanting to be the mole. It was a great experience to be on the hunt for the mole.
I wonder what it was like behind the scenes when they tabulated the quiz results and realized Sam was going home.
Well, they didn't know who Sam was.
Well, the showrunner didn't. I think there's probably still a significant contingent of the old regime in production team going, shit, we're losing our big character here.
Biggest reaction, too, from other contestants when somebody is eliminated.
Yeah. Well, everyone loves Sam. He's fun.
It just felt like he was playing, just by the way it was depicted in the episodes, in terms of how much airtime he was getting, insight into his strategy, and how well he was able to do the challenges, where he was always doing the challenges at another level compared to everybody else all throughout the season. That it was just tough to think, whoa, Sam goes home before we do.
Yeah.
I bet everybody was just expecting Sam to win, including us.
I will also say this now. Sam heavily implied he was on Sophie, which drops Sophie down my list this week. Because he said basically he went all in on one person. And the dirty look he gave Micah when he got a red screen makes me think that he was split between the two of them in previous tests, which is what had saved him, and he went all in on Sophie and got it wrong.
It's either that or he was on Micah and Sophie and then went all in on Micah and then it turns out it's Sophie. Like, it's one of those two options, really.
His speech in the test, much as we don't necessarily believe it, was that he thought the mole was in control of a button, which is Sophie.
Yeah.
It's Sophie or Stein in that case, and he's wrong.
It's amazing how many people, after all these years, even people as big of a fan as Sam is, or, you know, the fact that it runs in his blood.
I was going to say, he's not that big a fan looking at how he did with the questions.
The trivia. When your dad was the host of the show. But it's funny just how many people are being lured into going full ticket on one person, even this early into the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is our last week of Two Suspicions, just to preempt the announcement that I'm going to do in a couple of minutes. But yeah, it's still a bit early to be going all in, I would say. So next time, there's laser game in an airport, mannequins, a blur and a fuss, and they ruin the season further by bidding for an exemption for the finale.
Just when you thought they were going to give them a decent amount of money.
Nope.
I still want them one season to do like, we're going to let you bid whatever you want, and then it turns out, oh no, just kidding, that doesn't mean anything, we're just going to show everybody what you bid.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like an interesting way to do we're going to show everybody this video we secretly took of you before. I think that would be a nice way to do it, and do a pot drain for the preview without actually doing a pot drain and ruining the season.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it isn't a real pot drain.
Yeah.
Do we need to eulogize Sam any further before I rattle off some stats?
I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone's expecting us to do a 3-hour proper funeral mass for Sam, but I think we're all just crossing our fingers that he's going to come back for Renaissance at this point.
Unfortunately, he hasn't posed nude for Playgirl, so we haven't really got anything to discuss.
No. I mean, we're not going to stop talking about him, and he's almost certainly going to get the reunion banner anyway, so this is not the end of the season for him. So in the pool with Sam going home, that means for the first time since Renaissance, Michelle has no one left in the final 5, and will get the last draft for the 3rd straight time in Renaissance. I still have Micah, Sophie, and Rose, and Logan still has Steiner and Nora. And as this is Final 5, this is the final week of swaps being allowed. In First Suspicions, 3 people, Christina and our very own Logan Saunders and Michelle Pierce-Donovan, had Sam in 10th, and Onbekend had him in 9th. On the other end of the scale, Femke and Bindles both had Sam in 1st.
Oh.
We have a new leader on First Suspicions, as Ollie is now leading overall with a score of 19, where the minimum is 15. While due to her putting Sam in last, Michelle is now not last overall. Instead, she's 1 point above last, as Alan and Julian both have a score of 30. The Dutch suspects this week are Rose with 28% up 2 from last week, Stein on 26% up 14% from last week, Sophie on 20 minus 3, Micah on 14 minus 1, and Nora on 12 plus 1. And as I have already said, this is the last week of 2 suspects for each of us. Follow-on questions: who do we suspect and who's going home?
My suspects list was Ruse, Sophie, Micah as like a clear top 3. Then it was Stein, Nora, Sam. And I think Nora will be executed next week. Or maybe she will just silently make her way into the final 4. Who knows?
Final 3, she's going to win the exemption.
Micah, Stein, Sophie, Rose, Nora.
Snora? Was that deliberate?
No. I'm going to say Rose is going home because I feel like she hasn't really done a lot with Micah to get much information.
And my suspect list is Micah, Stein, Rose, Sophie, Nora.
Huh.
And I think Stein's going home next week. On the subject of Micah as well, one final bit of suspicious thing that she did that we didn't really talk about is I think in the pre-union, she said she's a massive fan of the show. And yet, in this episode, she know nothing. She said that she's seen 1 or 2 episodes before signing up. And I think that might have been bollocks.
Yeah, that feels like a cover story.
Yeah. That feels like she didn't know the pre-union was going to happen, and maybe she put it in the pre-union as a, see if you're paying attention in 7 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Is my team Stein and Nora, you said, Michael?
Yeah.
And you have Micah on your team?
I have Micah, Rose, and Sophia.
I think I'm going to switch Nora with Micah.
Ooh, you bitch.
I love when this happens.
Well, I mean, I've got to fight back, haven't I? You're having Nora back, and I'll take Stein off you in that case.
All right.
And following the other established rule, I'm still in all 5 of them.
Yeah, you are.
So I'm just imagining you putting out the update on Friday, whenever it is, that just has like Bindles with like all 5 of the things, and then you.
No, I'm just trying to think. This is the first time you've ever swapped, I think, Saunders.
I just have zero confidence in Nora being the mole.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever swapped.
Yeah, I just thought, you know what? New showrunner, new rules.
Yeah, Logan might try and actually win this season.
You're usually a lot more. I'm going to just play by the rules and stick to what I've drafted.
Yeah, well, I'm just
Not anymore.
I'm full of more surprises than the Jack in the Box.
So the annoying thing is, I put in the rule that you can't immediately just swap back. Otherwise, I would have absolutely done that just for funsies.
Yeah, I remember that vaguely. Like, you can't just do the switch back.
The fun thing is, I put that rule in to stop Michelle doing it to because I always steal off her, and now she has no one to steal off of. Anything else you want to say about this episode?
No, I'm good.
No.
Good choice. You bitch.
Excessive.
So thank you for listening to our last ever Vias to World 2025 recap. We'll be back at some point, let's be honest, with Belkia. Or maybe next week to continue the hunt for the new small in Cambodia. Don't forget you can contact us on pretty much every social media platform that's not TikTok, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us and contact at rtvwarriors.com.
Not Be Real, though.
Not Be Real, no. You don't want to see where Logan is right now.
Not even Be Rick.
You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/rtvwarriors. Thank you as always to Marieke for the subtitles, and we'll see you next week.
Peace out and just chill till the next flavoring.
We're just normal nuns. We're just innocent nuns.